It's the old Doctor Who show, episode number 9, Carnival of Monsters.
Go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.
You couldn't control my mind before, and you certainly can't control it now.
Would you like a jelly, baby?
The TARDIS, when working properly, is capable of many amazing things.
Reverse the polarity of the neutron flows, and the TARDIS will be free of the force field now.
Well, the TARDIS is more than a machine, Stephen. It's like a person, you see.
The resulting reaction is fighting. Are you ready?
Welcome to the old Doctor Who show. My name is Eric, and I'm your co-host.
And I'm Dan, your other co-host.
And this is, as I said, the old Doctor Who show where we watch old episodes of Doctor Who and review them, so you don't have to. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing great.
Good. I think
what's
I was
new
going
with
to
you
say
since the last time we talked.
Well, I lost my dog, which was very sad. That's one of the reasons why. Is it good to open a podcast on a terribly sour and depressing note?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just power through it. Let's just really get into your feelings.
That's kind of how I wanted to just sort of go raw to the bone, raw nerve. But yeah, that's so you may be hearing this late because we usually record on Sunday before our show on Wednesday. We're actually recording this now.
Yes, you lost a family member, your dog, but we're also late because I've been playing The Witcher. So that's why I haven't had a chance to actually watch
I thought you were playing
the episodes.
The new
That
Batman.
just came out yesterday, so I've switched over. I'm going between open world games and not actually exploring my own open world. I'd rather just do it all digitally. By the way, these are some amazing. I mean, are you playing current generation games, like current console?
No.
Yeah. Our dear listeners here, you may not know this. You probably do because he has an extensive Wikipedia page. But Eric used to own and operate a video game store, and was
I did Red Devil Games.
Go-to guy for all your video game needs in Red Bank, New Jersey. Since then, he's had a family and kids. So
you're right.
He made bad choices, is what I'm saying.
Yes, and I made several commercials for that store. One of which you were in, Dan.
Oh, at least one.
Yeah. So if you hear this and then you go on YouTube, you can still find it.
We should probably put that in the show. No, we won't put that in the show notes.
Red Devil Games Promise number 36, in which you're where I made a commercial that said that if you went to a corporate video game store, you would get crabs, and for some, hepatitis. It was a crab. It was like one of the testimonials was a guy who got crabs from the mall. But you played a doctor who.
I played a doctor who.
And that was actually. I remember Comcast had made that banned that before 10 p.m. That was the.
We got the red band rated commercial. I don't know why, but
classic.
So you're not playing any the current.
Yeah, I want to. I'm not playing anything. The only game I played was I have a 3DS and I played Majora's Mask 3D. And I completely... Well, I didn't completely. I'm missing, 2 heart containers, I think. But pretty much I got everything. I did all the side quests.
Are you a completionist in general with games?
Kind of. I mean, it depends on the game. I mean, sometimes I'll just, play through and just do the main... Like, Skyrim, for instance.
Yeah. You could literally play that
I have,
forever.
200 hours, and I'm still playing it.
Right.
But I have not finished all of it. Fallout 3, I would just play Bethesda games if I could. That would be... Yeah. If you made a system that just played that, it would be enough for me. But Fallout 3 and...
so you're going to jump on the... You're going to jump on the Fallout 4?
Oh, yeah. I'm actually going to buy... Yes. Yeah, I'm actually going to buy a PlayStation 4, I guess, because it's not on...
Yeah.
I have
That's what I have now. I got the 4. I went from the 360. I went to the PS4, and I'm loving it. That
seems like the way to go over the Xbox. Welcome to our video game.
Whatever. We have other interests besides Doctor Who. I'm actually barely interested in Doctor Who. I'm actually more... No, I'm kidding. No, in terms of raw performance, the PS4 is the way to go. I think the Xbox has a lot more niceties to it, just the media center stuff. This is really, really well done. Our guest host last episode, Ryan, owns both, and but for good reason. One has really good horsepower and plays the games that you want. The other one has a lot of cool
Have you ever played the
fringe.
Lego games? The Lego Marvel game is amazing, and I think that it's a huge missed opportunity. There should be a Lego Doctor Who game to tie it all.
Oh my gosh,
Back in.
I
It just
would
seems like
love that. The amount of characters you have, the
Right.
situation. There's never been a good, as far as I know, listeners, write in and let us know if I'm wrong. I've not seen a good Doctor Who licensed game, period.
Yeah,
Like, there's like a match game right now on iOS that is, I mean, it's a match game. It has nothing to do with Doctor Who. You got some fan service because it's got characters in it, but it's kind of lame otherwise.
There was a top-down Matt Smith game, I believe.
Yeah,
where
with
you sort of moved him around a maze, right?
Matt and Amy were in it.
Yeah.
And that wasn't good. That was actually horrible. But
It's like
such a great
it's an underutilized license. You would think
52 years of 51 years of history, and they have so much they could do with it. And yet,
that's why like the Lego Marvel game is brilliant.
Would be-
and you can unlock, and like something like that I think would be perfect for
right.
for
It's tongue in cheek enough that they can take. Yeah, the humor would be great. So, what we're going to do is start a letter writing campaign. Dear Lego.
Yeah,
And
get on that.
start doing this. Yeah.
So before we jump into the episode 2, I just want to mention last time, if you listened to the show, just to give a little behind the scenes, we had recorded the show. I was having horrible microphone and audio problems. I don't know if
Which
it's
is, I'm sure, a
apparent-
shock to people listening because they're
Yeah.
used to a certain level of high audio fidelity.
Yes. I don't know if it was apparent, but I could hardly hear you and Ryan most of the time. So I apologies. I was going to say ahead of time, but actually in the past. If I was asking like the same question. We also got to the end of the episode, and my computer was crashing. Like I was having all these problems. My mic was completely fried, and then none of my audio recorded.
You shouldn't be using an Amiga to record this, though.
Yes.
I've told you that from the outset.
I get to the end, and I go on GarageBand, and there's it's just recording blank. There's nothing. But luckily, our guest, Ryan, had done a backup, so that's why you got to hear it. And my voice is actually from whatever he recorded, which is through my MacBook's microphone. So now I'm back on my actual mic, and so hopefully I sound a little bit better.
Yep.
If not, please let me know in the comments. All right,
Which
so let's
we're
get
about to disable now.
Yeah, let's get into it. We've spent too much time on other things. Are you ready to hit the
Let's do it.
the button and go into the future?
Do it.
All right, do it.
In what way does this machine amuse?
Your worship, allow me to demonstrate. If you will watch the glow sphere.
What is this?
These creatures are Tellurians, a species discovered in a distant galaxy. Scientists have been amazed at the remarkable similarity between these little chaps and our own dominant life form.
The resemblance is unpleasant.
These are the only Tellurians in captivity. Some scientists think that their discovery refutes Waldeck's theory that life in the universe is infinitely variable. An even more interesting, though less amusing, form of life is the Ogron. They are of limited intelligence and are used as servants by some race called Daleks, I believe. We will shortly be seeing the prize of my collection, the Drashigs.
Drashigs?
They are, without doubt, the most evil, the most vicious, and undoubtedly the most frightening form of life in the whole of the universe.
Oh, look, there's one.
Amazing.
All right, so we are looking at Carnival of Monsters. This is season 10 of Doctor Who, Pertwee episode, obviously. This premiered in January of 1973. If you are listening to the show in order, this is the very next episode, which is very rare since we're jumping around a little bit. So,
this follows the
three
three
doctors
right?
immediately before this. So this is actually the first episode with Pertwee where he is no longer exiled to Earth, so he can actually go off to other planets and other places and do some cool stuff. So this was written by Robert Holmes, directed and produced by Barry Letts, which I did a little reading on the internet. Apparently Barry Letts, producer for this series, had the prerogative to direct a single episode per season, and this is the one that he wanted to direct. The original title for this episode was Peep Show, which seems a little risque, but they decided to go with Carnival of Monsters for some reason. The previous episode that he had directed was Terror of the Autons, which was another one that we had reviewed. So, pretty cool. So, tell us a little bit about this. Give us a synopsis.
All right, I'll do a really quick synopsis because this This one's easy enough to do. So basically, the Doctor and Joe get trapped inside a miniature traveling circus. And they have to get out.
That's it.
And that's all you need to know.
That's all you need. It is actually really all you need to know.
And another Robert Holmes one. What did you think of this particular story, Dan? And then
the
I will
story
tell you what
was
I think.
Okay. I think the story was good. The acting was pretty great, and the effects, particularly the practical effects, the staging, the sets was fantastic. So overall, super enjoyable episode. We've done several of these episodes where the story is over multiple parts. They're always over multiple parts. This is a 4-part episode. A 4-part story, 4-episode story, and it didn't feel like it. It just flew. There was a lot happening. I really enjoyed this.
It was definitely one of my favorites that we've done so far.
Yeah.
The characters were all really great. Like, I loved the woman in the teeny bopper things on her head, and the dude that were running the carnival with the mustache that looked like they got all their clothes from Spencer Gifts. You know
So we're talking about Vorg, who was like the carnival barker, and Shirna was his lovely assistant.
Good on you, Dan, for writing these things
trying to help.
down. They were amazing. The
amazing
bureaucracy of the alien race that was deciding whether or not they could let them in, and just all of the goofy,
the three of them were great.
Constantly
the 3 of them were great. We had Pleatrak, who was kind of the head guy. We had Kalik and Oram, who were his 2 kind of underlings, and the 3 of them were. It was basically a political drama surrounding customs.
Yes,
like that was the whole thing. It was customs,
but they also have enslaved these. They're called functionaries, right?
Yeah,
these people that are just working. And then one of them commits suicide in the beginning of this.
So yes, so we have the setup where there's a whole political class that runs this planet, and we're seeing them through these 3 guys, and they have, like Eric said, they have a whole race of these underlings, functionaries, and yet. This is not a social commentary whatsoever. It just is this the way it is. They don't make
they do
any
not get liberated. They are not really important.
No redeeming. It is just the way this planet works. Deal with it.
Yes. And you get the sense that there is a power struggle going on between whether the king is new or
president.
Not,
this is a democracy, Eric.
Yeah,
This is
they want to there's a group of dudes that decide they want to overthrow him. But there was so much stuff that was great in here. There was a lot of stuff with the sonic screwdriver, how they mentioned it only works on electronic locks, and So let's do this one sort of maybe in order, so we can start from the beginning.
So we start with the TARDIS materializing someplace. The Doctor is quite certain that they're on a particular planet, whatever the planet's name is. Actually, not all that important, but some Interminor, I think, is the name of the planet. So he's convinced. Joe the whole time is like, I'm not so sure. Because it looks like we're in the hull of a steamer ship, which it actually turns out they are.
Right, and she's correct. And they find chickens down there for some reason. There's weird-sounding chickens that don't sound like something else is going on. You hear,
tortured chickens.
Right. It's like,
they sounded
delicious.
That's
a chicken. That's a fella down there having a little extra alone time with himself, I think.
So they realize that well, perhaps they're not actually on another planet, but the Doctor won't give up the ghost, and they explore around the ship a bit, this ocean liner, and it becomes apparent that they are actually
SS Bernice.
They're on the SS Bernice. Now, I wonder if I could have done some research myself. I'm not going to ever actually do that, though. If this is an actual ship, the Doctor makes reference to, this is the SS Bernice. This is interesting because in its day, this ship was almost as famous as the Titanic because it disappeared. But Joe had never heard of it. You would assume that she might have. And then, spoiler, wait, you've already watched the episode. They put everything to rights again. So the ship goes back to where it's supposed to be. So perhaps the ship actually never disappeared, so there's no reason anyone would have ever heard of the SS Bernice. So in a timey-wimey sort of way, it actually makes sense that we've never heard of it because it never disappeaared. So why would we know? It's just a ship going to India. So it turns out that the Doctor and Joe are on a steamer ship that's bound to India. It's bound to arrive the next morning, and it's 1926, I believe. And the only characters we really meet on the ship, besides some crew hands, there's an explorer sort of professor guy. His daughter, who is a flapper because it's the 20s and TV, so it must be a flapper, and some captain of the ship, not captain, something less than captain on the ship, who the flapper is kind of in love with. Major Daly.
Oh, yes. And he ends up coming back onto Doctor Who.
Oh, really?
He is not as that character, though. He ends up being a companion of Tom Baker in the future.
No
and we will see him again.
The actor comes back.
The
again.
actor. And they've done that before. That happens, all over the place.
You do see a lot of these guys recurring. I mean, like any sort of British show, it seems like everyone in England gets to be on TV at least once.
I believe Colin Baker was on Doctor Who as just some other guy before he became the Doctor.
Huh.
Yeah.
In the current series, Karen Gillan, who plays Amy Pond, was originally in a Tennant episode where she played an Oracle. So I guess they do kind of, and also Martha Jones. She was in a season finale of a Tennant episode. They reconciled that one by saying that she was the cousin. The previous character was her cousin. So
I was gonna say Evie Miles too. That was in Torchwood was also like in an old Doctor Who episode,
and they said the same thing. She said that she was like a distant relative. So yep, it happens, which is pretty awesome. Okay, so
there is an interesting thing that I had a question on, and maybe you could help me. What was the reason they were stuck in a Groundhog Day scenario where they were repeating?
Right.
Where basically in the show, so they would run into the captain, and the other guy who was talking about
the other guests on the ship,
the other English people. Yeah. They would have the same conversation. They would hide. They would come back, and they would repeat the exact same conversation. So it was like
Joe noticed that the clock had actually jumped back an hour or whatever it is.
Right. So it was like a time loop.
It's a little time loop. So they don't actually explicitly say this, but this whole it comes to light that they're inside this miniscope, which is basically able to take entire environments and its inhabitants, like a little terrariums, and keep them inside a field that keeps them compressed and smaller. I'm assuming it's the same thing. So this is their little ant habitat, like the Doctor kind of compares it to. So it is funny they never explicitly make reference to the fact that they're also like this compression field keeps them small and also has a time loop set on a certain.
It sort of
but they never explicitly say that. But that's what it is.
Right before he was old. Right before he was old time boxing.
Old timey fisticuffs. The Doctor has some real fighting Irish sort of.
Normally he's doing judo chops, but he does box like an old champion.
Well, he was taught by the creator of boxing, so yeah. He knows what he's doing.
One of my favorite moments too, like they're still in the miniscope, and the Doctor has to saw his way out at one point. I don't know if you remember this problem.
Yeah, I watched the show.
The saw thing just keeps binding on him, and he's got a face that we all have when we're trying to saw the thing's binding. And I'm like, he's just like us. He's just the Doctor's just like us.
The Doctor's regular people. He's regular people.
He's just regular people.
Where he got that thing, I have no idea. He just pulled out. It was like it wasn't a saw because it was flexible. It was like a garrote wire with some cutting implement on it that he's kind of cutting through the safety bar. But so they're on the ship, and every so often, every 10 minutes or so, the crew forgets what happened previously. They kind of reset and they go through it again.
Yes.
I think Jo was, not to be demeaning, she was adorable in this episode. I thought she was so good. Every time it's like, here we go again, but without
was at her best.
She was great.
She actually is the one too that solves the dilemma to get out. I mean, she's the one that comes up with the idea that he needs a rope. To get down at this point. It's her idea to go sideways or whatever. I forget what the terminology is.
Even though that wasn't exactly what the Doctor meant, she thought of a way that actually applied and it made sense. Yeah.
It was so written. Like this was one of her finest moments that we've seen, because I'm not always the biggest fan of her as a companion, but I thought this episode she was great. I thought the Doctor was great. I thought overall, like, this is just such a
all the different characters,
episode, very fun.
So they're inside this. They're inside the ship. They realize that. So the TARDIS is inside the ship, and then a giant hand comes in and grabs the TARDIS and plucks it out.
Now, here's the thing. Can we talk? I was going to say about the giant hand. Like, do you think he showed up at the set and was like, "You want me to do what?" Because he hadn't cut his nails. Like, he could have cleaned his nails that day. I just felt bad for the guy. Like, that
Eric,
awkward
it's
moment.
the
They're like, I gotta put
70s.
my, and he's just like kind of hiding the dirt on his fingernails. That poor guy.
Gritty
He's gotta watch that
realism.
again and again. Yeah,
It's gritty realism. They love that set.
It was real gritty. I just wish that he had a chance to just freshen up a little bit.
I could have gotten a manicure. I would have had a manicure. You could.
I didn't know you were gonna do it. Yeah.
So
go on. What were you saying about the hand coming in?
That's it. So that's how the first episode is. They pull it out. Well, overall, I kind of praised the episode in terms of the production value, specifically though in the set design, etc. The green screen still has a lot of room for improvement. It's better here than it has been in previous episodes, but the hand coming in really didn't look great. The actual miniature of the TARDIS, also not so awesome. Whatever. It's it's fantastic.
Yes, and one thing that I thought was cool was that the humans are referred to as Talarians, which is a term that I wasn't familiar with.
Yeah, what was that about? I didn't look
but
that up.
that means an inhabitant of Earth, a terrestrial. That's a word that you can look up in the dictionary.
That's a word you can
or
look
that's
up.
what I did, because I didn't know if that was like, were they confusing them with some other species? Or
That's what
or
I
they
thought was happening.
Yes, but I looked it up and it says of or relating to Earth or inhabitant of Earth, which I thought was cool and shows that I need to read more.
You know what's interesting?
I'm not
It's
very
like-
smart. That's the
It's
thing.
like the British made up a whole language.
It's true. It's
weird. They just kind of made up a whole. There's so many words.
You got your own words. Yeah.
So after that, the Doctor and Joe get out of the ship. They find this silver disc on the floor. What was interesting was they're getting marched off.
Oh,
to,
wait, yes, and also to talk about the silver disc, only they can see the silver disc. So
Yes.
the silver disc is not available to anyone else that's been captured.
Right.
So you're not only are you repeating, you're also sort of oblivious
Your
to certain
perception's been-
elements. Right.
That's right. I mean, he didn't quite. If it was a current Who episode, they would have said perception field because that comes up a lot. But it would have been the same thing. So no one else could see it but them. Also, upon seeing it, without doing any sort of analysis, without touching it, nothing, the Doctor knew this is not a metal of this time or this planet. He's a metallurgist. He knows this stuff just by sight.
He's super
Some
smart.
people like to watch birds. He likes to look at metal. So they see this thing on the floor, blah 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 blah. And they figure their way to get out of the ship. And instead of actually like escaping from the ship, they end up escaping into what they don't know yet is the mini scope. So they end up in this.
Right.
This is where I thought the set was amazing. It was like a
Yes.
cross between like a roller disco meets community theater meets a laser tag.
Yeah.
There was a lot happening. It was pretty cool. But so
like
they're
the wings.
miniaturized. The only thing that was really strange about this, so they're still inside in the miniscope. They're in this compression field. They're crossing these circuits. So I'm assuming they're like almost microscopic. There must be really
they're
really
very
tiny to do this.
Yes.
Except for the fact that later, when the Doctor makes his way out of the machine and falls onto the floor, he's the size of a Ken doll. There's no way that they can haul. Scale was not really. They didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to scale.
Yes. But maybe immediately outside the field is only working at partial power.
We could totally retcon this whole thing and say as you
And then
get
I like
closer
how
to
he
the edge of
sort
the.
of grows like he's just his so over the top delivery. Like when he's exhausted and coming out of that thing, like he is going full on with his.
Oh, it's like
acting.
he was just birthed. He was just. Oh my god. Yeah. Anyway, so they have to make their way through the circuits of this miniscope. Throughout this, they like you had mentioned before, they find another panel that looks similar to what they found in the ship. So that they're gonna like cut their way into this and see like maybe this will get them out. Instead, they end up in this marshland kind of quasi Paleolithic sort of planet area, which is inhabited by voracious eating caterpillar dinosaur monsters.
Yeah, the Drashics, right, or Drassics?
Yeah,
Drashics.
that's what
Sure,
I would
I
call
think
it
that's
that.
what they're called.
So these
were
things
just-
catch
they-
their scent and are going to try to eat them.
Yes, and they're sort of unstoppable, and once they get going, and it was just so clever. And them being inside the machinery and everything, and I feel like we had
They
just
looked
done something.
awesome.
Yeah.
They looked when the first
They
one
did.
is revealed and it comes up out of the marsh, kind of in a slow mo shot, and turns and kind of faces the camera, and all the mud is flying off of it. It looked really really good. I was very I think the bar is kind of low, so I'm being very generous. But I thought that looked fantastic.
No,
one of the really cool monsters in this thing.
Yeah, and then once he gets out, then we start to reveal that plot of the Silver Eyebrow Boys.
Yeah,
where
before we
they're
get
deciding
there,
to sabotage the defense systems.
Before we get there, though, so they're in this marsh area. There's this drac whatever thing monster, and there's all the swamp gas. So the way that they distract them and kind of get away from them is using the sonic screwdriver to explode the marsh gas and combust it. This is the first I've seen Pertwee's sonic screwdriver. And it was very different than other screwdrivers I've seen in the past. Or maybe this is the first time I've really seen him operate it, because it was kind of this...
I feel like
this
it's
kind of
come up
swirl
and
going through it.
We've talked about it, didn't we?
For some reason, this really struck me as different than anything I've seen before. Because it kind of... the way that he operated with his thumb, and it kind of like swirled...
Right.
Very different than your modern Who... almost excessively ornamental, sort of mechanical-looking things. This one looked like it could have looked inside your ear. It would look like a medical instrument almost, with a candy cane swirl on it. It was cool. I've never seen. I don't recall seeing a sonic screwdriver that looks quite like that. Pretty awesome.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. So then we see they're sabotaging the gun. So they have this weapon poised and ready
this
to
is back
strike.
outside the miniscope.
So that's another thing I guess we should mention is we are cutting between the miniaturized world that's happening inside the miniscope and then outside the situation of the traveling circus, who I guess they're just going from system to system with their wares and then trying to rip people off with shell games and whatnot. And
pretty much carnival barkers. And they say at one point that they're down to their last credit stick. They hope to kind of make a whole lot of money either showing this miniscope as like a little cabinet of wonders sort of thing, or worst comes to worst, he just does a 3-card Monty and makes some money off of that. So we have this whole thing going with the political intrigue. We have basically these 3 functionaries who it's this entirely centered around whether or not they're going to let these aliens come onto the planet with their miniscope device. They decide, though, at one point that it's against the rules, so what the punishment must be that they have to destroy the miniscope. So they have this... What do they call it? What's the machine called? The Eradicator, I think, was the name of their gun. It's something generic like blow-up machine.
Right.
Yeah. But for some reason, that technology, their technology, is not strong enough to actually destroy the miniscope. It, at most, jostles its contents and causes it to malfunction. So they're worried that
and we forgot to mention, not that it's too important, but even before the Doctor gets out, they find the TARDIS sort of as a device inside of it.
That was the hand
taken out, and it's grown at this point.
That's right. That was the hand that came in to pull it out. It was a piece of bric-a-brac inside the machine.
Yes,
because
it turns out it's a weapon of some kind or whatnot.
Right. The inhabitants of the planet were worried maybe these are invaders that have some antenna that's feeding back information or whatever. But they pull out the TARDIS, and once it's outside the field, it grows to its normal size. It does turn out that the Carnival Barker and his assistant don't know how to operate this machine at all, this miniscope. He's just kind of pushing buttons, and
he's sort of won it in some kind of card game or something.
Yeah,
like he doesn't even have he doesn't have the instruction manual, which is
nothing. He doesn't know anything about it. He's just kind of like, I guess I'll try to make some money. Like, he was a really cool character, other than his costume, which is made up entirely of circles for no reason, day-glow circles.
Yeah, he also looked like the guy that at any point he's like, you could get $1 million from the government. Like, he was going to just tell you that you had to send away for something, and you were going to end up going to see, you're going to open up a coffee shop, and the government's going to pay for you. It's like, easy up on the cocaine fella. But yeah, he was that dude.
Yeah, with a fabulous mustache. So the two of them, between the two of them, honestly, the assistant was probably the stronger of the two characters. She was fantastic.
Yeah, she was
we
great.
got Shurna, played by Cheryl Hall. Really, really, really good.
Yeah, and they're also operating a machine that the Time Lords have already banned. Like,
so this is really interesting. That this thing, the Doctor kind of makes this point that he was instrumental in getting this miniscope technology banned. And it was the idea that, it's bad enough to have like an ant colony where these aren't sentient beings. It's questionable enough to do that, but like these are beings that understand that are sentient, that have lives and civilization. So it's morally reprehensible to actually have them.
And I like that
when it flashes
the doctor
through all the
references zoos, though, to Joe. Like, you've never been to a zoo,
Right.
and it makes us think about the fact that zoos are awful and we should shut them down.
Yeah, I actually have real trouble going to zoos. They really,
Yeah, they're
I mean,
horrible.
unless they're doing a lot of real conservation effort to, like, this is the last of its kind. If we didn't do this, it'd be dead. Like,
Right.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's just sad animals
just
walking in
exploitation.
circles, and there's an eagle that can't fly. This is
Right.
great. Buy
This
me
is so much fun.
Buy me a stuffed animal. This poor. It's awful, but that's a whole
Yeah.
other. We could have a separate podcast then.
You guys need to
and
tune
we will.
into that one. We will. We'll have it.
Yeah.
Right after the... Anyway,
Don't go to zoos.
Right. So the Doctor had that whole thing banned. So this one is apparently like this rogue, last of its kind sort of
Right,
piece of equipment.
and I guess my point was, even the fact that the guy is an awful human being who is trapping people and selling them and ripping people off, he's so likable and
super likable.
Him
Even
and
at the
her,
end.
like
Yeah.
the bickering back and forth, and the fact
Yep.
that she's constantly like, you're a complete dope. Like, all of the characterization and the dialogue and everything was so strong in this episode.
Absolutely.
Good stuff.
We haven't really talked about like the interaction between the three inhabitants, the customs officials, for lack of a better, the way that they were talking to each other. One must blah blah blah. It was interesting. It was a very strong choice in the writing style and the way they performed, but the performances were so good. There was like a little tension between the three of them, and one's going to try to release. He wants to actually let these big monsters out of the miniscope in order to cause chaos and mayhem, which would then somehow reflect poorly on the president, so that he would resign from office and then he could become president. It was a very, very convoluted, far-fetched plan.
It was, but it was also perfect because they're so steeped
great.
in properness
The
and the
rules.
bureaucracy and
Yep.
the rules and everything else, that it was like the way that he was going to topple the thing was by shame, and like
Yes,
it was
yeah,
going to
yeah.
be like it
Yeah.
wasn't a violent. I mean, I guess it was going to turn out to be a violent revolution, but it really wasn't.
Well, it was
just
violent for
trying to-
them. I think they
Yeah,
got
he
eaten
was
in the
he was
end,
going to
so.
slaughter. Yeah, but he was also going to slaughter all the people and let it pretty much destroy the city in order so that they could take over.
Depose
But just
the president.
yeah, just the whole like eyebrows and like ooh, and this is
Eyebrows and bald caps.
Yes,
and blue paint or gray paint, except for just around the eyes and the lips. Yeah, they were really interesting characters. I liked
was
all
great.
that. So we got a lot. The only thing that everything was great. What else do we have going on in this episode? I mean, so this is. It's a pretty self-contained sort of thing. It's by the end of it, the Doctor has rigged it so that he has to go back in to save Joe. He goes back, so he actually escapes from the miniscope. You guys have seen the episode. I don't know why I'm going through all the
we don't
detail.
need to do everything. I mean, I think we
Right,
we
but
pretty
he
much-
sends them all back. One of the things that was cool was in the beginning when he's cycling through all the different circuits they have, all the different civilizations he has on board. One of them is the Cybermen. Which was kind of cool. So for a second on the screen, you actually saw a Cyberman. It's like, oh, this is going to be a Cyberman episode. It's not a Cyberman episode.
Yes.
Which is totally fine by me.
that was very cool.
Yeah. So I mean, that's that's the long and short of it. I mean, overall, really strong writing. The acting from everyone, including almost especially the secondary players, were really great. Top to bottom, everyone was really strong. The production design was great. I think it was a super good episode. One of the better ones I think that we've seen in our short tenure reviewing episodes.
Yeah, I loved it, and I had not seen this one prior, and I'd always heard good things about it. I would highly recommend it to anyone.
I gotta say though, in the very beginning, as it started up, and it was cutting between the customs officials and being on the SS Bernice, I was like, oh boy, this is gonna be a rough.
Are you seriously?
At first, I was like, I don't think this is gonna be so good. But within 15 minutes of the first episode, I'm like, okay, this is great. And then the rest of the thing just flew.
Yeah, I just thought it was so
at first,
crazy
that was
when you
fine.
see like that functionary or whatever they're called. Like just like freak out that he's tired of like moving boxes and he jumps up and he's gonna kill himself.
What were they were. I thought they were working for Santa. They were unloading Christmas presents.
I don't
know what they
even
were
quite
doing.
understand like what is going on in that whole civilization. But I love the
just
fact
serving a
too
function.
that they are also sort of isolated from these other systems, and they have envy about like the other star systems and whether or not they can use their technology. And it was just a very cool sort of political structure that was, or commentary that was going on about them. It's good
also,
stuff.
it does also point to the fact that the Doctor does not know how to fly the TARDIS, as Joe points out. He was pretty sure he knew where they were going. Just did not end up in the place where he thought he was going to be. It's the same thing we see later.
What was the cause of that? Did they cover why he ended up where he did?
I don't think they ever say. For me, it's always, and this happens throughout the entire show, it's always the Doctor thinks he's going to go to this one place, but he actually ends up in another. Especially, I'm used to the current series. That's just what happens all the time. And it's, you just have to go with it that the TARDIS doesn't always take him where he wants to go. It takes him where he needs to go.
Right, and they had a nice bit of chemistry about that topic. About, do you ever admit you're wrong?
Right. That was cute.
No, it was good.
And he's so so staunch about it. He knows what he's talking about. But then he gives like a little knowing laugh and like, I know I'm kind of ridiculous sometimes. Like, he's great. Pertwee he's a gem.
It's good stuff. And I did tell you, and to take it a little bit out of Doctor Who, what I ended up watching on Amazon Prime, there was like a bunch of old horror movies, and I came across John Pertwee, which I thought was really interesting. In this, it was like The House That Bled. No, The House That Dripped Blood. It's like a 1971 movie that he made while he was shooting Doctor Who. What year was this show? What was this story?
70, I think, is when he started. This particular episode was beginning of 73.
This was earlier, so it was still during Doctor Who that he shot it, and it's an anthology type horror movie. But it's great, and if you have Amazon Prime, it's worth watching it. He's in, I think, the last story.
Great, or is it?
Oh, it's great. No, it's great. I mean, it depends. I think it's great. I would recommend it. Some of the stories are really cool.
Okay,
do it. Yeah,
cool.
It's good stuff. But anyway, to go back, I mean, I think we covered this. We both loved it.
Yeah.
It was good stuff. Anything else you want to add on it, or should we?
No.
Put this thing to bed here?
Total 2 thumbs up. Highly recommend.
Is
that how we end our episodes? 2 thumbs up. Highly recommend. Is that?
Yes, that's their new slogan.
Great.
The next one is all I have seen before, which I also like. So spoilers on my opinion of the next one. But the next one we're doing is called The Green Death.
Green Death. That will be available for you folks both on the Netflix and on the Hulu. Formerly Hulu Plus, now just Hulu. Give us all your money. So we hope you join us. I'm not sure when this episode will go up. I mean, our episode was supposed to come out today. If I can edit it, you'll hear the
tomorrow.
next one within 3 weeks or so of this one.
Yeah. So the next one, according to our schedule, should be up on the 15th of July. So if you're listening to this before the 15th of July, try to watch The Green Death, and we're going to talk about it. In the meantime, you can go to the olddoctorwhoshow.com and you can subscribe to this on Twitter, not on Twitter, on Stitcher.
Yep.
On
iTunes. iTunes. You can
Fletcher. on
Fletcher
Stevens.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can watch Fletch, which is a great movie. Fletch 2 doesn't hold up as well, but Fletch is pretty good.
Yeah.
You can check out our schedule there, too, on theolddoctorwhoshow.com. You can also email us if you have any comments or questions. We'd love to hear from you. That's theolddoctorwhoshow.com@gmail.com. You can follow me on @DanJNJ on the Twitter.
And I'm @eGrissom on Twitter, so you just tell us hi. It's always nice to hear from people.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So, again, I miss my dog, so I have to bring that back to full circle.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Mentioned at the beginning, because I always like to start on a down note, and then if it ever gets high, I like to crush it into the ground at the end.
Yep.
And all your dreams are dead. If you have a pet, hug your pet, and get on to watching The Green Death.
Otherwise, life is futile, and hug your
pillow. Right, we're all
going
to die. We're all going to die. Everything's meaningless. You know? All right, people. Thank you. We will see you again in 3 weeks, hopefully.
Do it. Unless we all die.
Life is a sham.
We're just great.
Well, instead of approaching the problem from head on, you approach it sort of sideways.
Sideways?
Yes, take our own particular example for a moment. I mean, this is our problem. We can't go forward because this shaft is too steep. We can't go back the way we came because of our hungry little friends here.
Oh, I see. So we've got to go sideways.
Just a sideways.